Hello everybody, welcome to the Daily Sip. Today's special edition. Today we make a small thing, which is we are tasting actually new teas, and I want to guide you a little bit through, and I hope I can help you while you're at home. Most often you don't have deep information about the tea. Most often when you go to a tea store, there's some information you will get about the tea you're buying, but I want to guide you through a little bit on what aspects to look at, and finally I want to taste this tea and see if they're actually good and worthy to become one of our portfolio teas. So let's see when we dive into, so these are our teas. I really have no information of Agnesa, our team member who is organizing the teas, so I will just walk through them. So this is the first package we are looking at. Beautiful masterpieces. I just opened them this morning, and this is the second one, and this is number 3. All of them have the Jazz logo on them, so all of them are organic teas, and we're just gonna dive into it and then really have a look at what is this tea about, how does it taste, and especially what I'm curious about is finally if they can make it into our assortment. When we look at the first point, so what am I looking at is often when I receive a sample from a tea farmer, I smell the tea. So super simple first thing to do. So maybe just smell the pack, or if you have a smaller pack, or you can also put it on the plate, put your hand like this and then smell like this. This is also possible. So first smell definitely shows me very fruity notes, sweet notes for this tea. So I'm expecting this tea to be shaded, a little bit of darker leaves. I think it's a Sencha, but this we'll see later with the visual aspect. Often Gyokuro, which is the higher quality, longer shaded tea, has really a little bit this waxy, a little bit shiny leaves. Meanwhile, the Senchas, they're a little bit darker, more beautiful in terms of kind of deep green color without this shiny aspect to it, or much less shiny aspect. So this definitely a very sweet tea. I expect it to be quite fruity, non-astringent, and there can be quite a good developed savory taste note to it, or the so-called umami taste note. Good. Then the second one. It's also quite sweet, but it's not as sweet as the first one. So the first one's really sweet, round, a little bit fruity. Let's see what kind of fruits I'm getting. Yeah, a little bit more, a little bit of mango, a little bit of green raisins I'm getting here. This one is a little bit finer, a little bit smoother, kind of maybe a little bit shyer also in its fruity aspect. So I expect it to be, in terms of taste later, a little bit more kind of in the grassy, a little bit more vegetal, spinachy notes I'm expecting, but still a decent fruity note, decent sweet note, which I should get from this tea. Now, third one. So it's kind of an in between these two. So this one is a little bit, has a slight spinachy note mixed with some fruitiness. This one has a decent sweet note, but not too strong in this grassy. There's a little bit of a fresher note as well to it. A little bit. Seems like a little bit of a younger, kind of earlier spring harvest. This is a little bit the flavors or the aromas I'm getting here. So now I'm quite curious how the visual aspect of these 3 tea is. So I take around 5 grams of each tea, and then I put it aside. So this is tea number 1. We have to remember this. Then tea number 2. Okay. And tea number 3. Good. Good. So then let's have a look at the tea leaves. So what we can see, they're quite brittle. You have a little bit of dust. So this is clearly a long steamed tea. Fukamushi steamed tea, I expect it to be. Also, thanks to its kind of really strong fruity and a little bit sweeter aspect, I expect this tea. Well, this is a tea which is brewed or which is steamed in the Fukamushi style. This one the same. Between the teas you don't see too much difference. This one a little bit more shiny, so I guess this is slightly longer shaded, so this one here than the second one, but they're very similar, very close to each other. So I'm curious now how the difference of the taste is. And when we look at the third tea, also in comparison, so we see they're also quite similar, these two. This one's a little bit greener, a little bit lighter in its green color, but super, super kind of similar as well. So I'm expecting a little bit of similar taste profile between these three. And now I'm really, really curious how the taste kind of in my palate devolves differently or evolves differently. And for this, I have my Kyushu, my 3, and I just gonna use the, so this is the green one, this is the golden one, and this one is the light blue one. And then we're gonna use a similar amount of water on all of them. Et voila. Et voila. Now you might tell me, okay, Oliver, but these are 3 different Kyushus. They give different taste notes. They're all slightly glazed, so I don't expect the clay to give a too strong flavor change to the tea. That's why I believe I can make this comparison with these 3. So there shouldn't be a too strong influence. For the one of you that don't know, is that you really, if you buy unglazed tea, the teapot can have quite a big difference, or can make quite a big difference between the brewings of a tea. If you go for red clay is a little bit more triggering the savory taste notes, a little bit more the umami taste notes, can be a little bit too strong in this kind of sea breeze taste profile for some people. I personally also prefer the black clay, or you just go for a fully glazed like this one here, and then you don't have any influence, or if there's influence, it's super, super minor that you don't really taste it. Good. So these are Fukamushi teas, as I said before. Long steaming means short brewing. So here the long steaming short brewing is 45 seconds. That's what I try to make it. Let's see, yeah, I hit quite well the amount of water here. Shake out the last drops that they don't continue to brew the tea. And then, okay, I hit it quite well with the amount of water. So put aside. Or maybe already take a smell on the leaves. Let's do that first. So, here I get sweet corn, a lot of sweet corn. Often when teas are shaded and very sweet and savory, I get a strong sweet corn flavor profile in the first brewing from the wet leaves. There's a little bit of a cereally, nutty undertone, a little bit of cashew undertone, very nice. So I expect this tea to be very, very sweet. You see, I don't put the tap completely on, the lid's completely on, so just let the tea breathe a little bit. So that's good. Wow. Okay, here we have a little bit more. So when I compare these two now, here I get this sweet corn note, super strong, but a little bit of a nutty flavor profile. Here also sweet corn, less intense, and a little bit more of a cereally tone. So this tea I expected, so here I think I will get a lot of this sweet flavor profiles, as I mentioned it before, fruity flavor profiles, but still kind of a younger grass notes or maybe spring grass notes. Here I believe it to be a little bit like a late summer grass. It can be a little bit stronger in terms of this. It's not a hay note, but there's a slighter, more mature grass note, spinachy note. So not young spinach, but more mature spinach. So that's what I'm getting, or what I expect to get with this tea. And now number 3. Definitely the least note in terms of this sweet corn note. So I expect this tea to be kind of the freshest one of all of these 3. I hope it will not drift off into to astringent tea, but I don't believe so because it's very well shaded. You saw the color was quite dark, so not very bright green color. So the sweetness of this tea should be on quite a good level. But now let's go into the tasting. So first, the dark green one. As expected, quite sweet. What's interesting is it doesn't drift off too much into a super fruity note. So I was expecting to have a lot of fruit notes, maybe a little bit of pineapple, a little bit of mango. When I taste it now, there's a slight sourness with it. But there's quite a tingling, sweet, refreshing note. So there's still, so the catechin content seems to be a little bit higher of these teas. I could imagine it's a Yuta Kamidori. So quite a tea which is, when you don't do it as a fukamushi tea, so a deep steamed tea, it can become quite astringent. When they deep steam it and they shade it, it becomes very beautifully sweet, but there's always a little bit of a fresh citrusy undertone. So here, I must say, it's a nice tea. It doesn't show any astringency. There's a slight citrusy tingling, but it's not drifting off into astringency. But you get not a lot of this also kind of sweet corn note, which I get a lot in the first brewing by smelling the leaves, but it's not too much present. So the umami taste is not too strong. There's quite a little bit of this freshness, which I described before, mixed with a little bit of a spinachy tone. So it doesn't drift off too much into the umami flavor. So definitely when you don't like these too savory taste profiles, don't like too much going into this umami territory, savory territory, this tea actually doesn't show too much of this, but it's still nicely sweet. And you get a little bit of this typical Japanese umami flavor profile, especially by the shaded tea, but it's not too strong, not too present. Now let's go to the second one. So maybe it's a golden yellowish color of the pack. So as expected, first one, very beautifully sweet, doesn't show too much astringency. Here I note a little bit of astringency. It is not overpowering, so this is still very nice in terms of its flavor profile. It doesn't drift off into an astringent tea, but you definitely get a little bit more than just a tingling, a little bit on the side, slight astringency. So a very well shaded tea, but still, as I expected, less sweet, less theanine, meaning the amino acid content seems to be a little bit lower here. The L-theanine is really this balancing out, or is really well in balancing out the astringency of the tea. And this comes out especially when the tea is longer shaded. So I expect this one to be a little bit longer shaded than this one. Or there could be also differences in the cultivar, where you have a cultivar which has a little bit more of catechins, so a little bit more of astringent taste profiles. But I expect really it comes from the shading. Then, next one. So this is now the light blue. So here, actually, what I'm expecting is that I have a little bit more of these greener taste profiles, and then I expect it to be quite low in astringency. But now let's see how it is. Very beautiful in its green flavor profile. Fresh tea, but super soft. No astringency. So it's quite strong. It's super interesting. So this is, for my opinion, or in my opinion, I'm liking when a tea is well shaded. I actually like it when it shows these umami and savory taste notes. This one here is good. It doesn't drift off in astringency. It gives a little bit of a tingling, quite nice, but shows me a little bit too weak taste profile in terms of this umami flavor. So I was expecting a little bit more from this tea. This one here, in my opinion, a little bit too astringent. It's not overwhelming. It's a nice balanced astringency, but for that, it doesn't show enough of this a little bit more floral, refreshing notes. So it's kind of nicely balanced, but at a too low level for me. So here, I would say this is my preferred one, but still there are teas out there which just show more of this fruity flavor profiles, a little bit more of the sweetness, which this tea is not getting too much. Now when we go into this slightly, I named it by this color here, the light blue tea. I expected also, it couldn't be a very early harvest, or even it could be a Sencha. Super nice in these fresh spinachy notes. There's a small tingling of the citrusy, a little bit astringent note, but it's super soft. So super interesting tea in terms of kind of this fresh, newly picked tea, early picked tea. There's quite a lot of edamame. It even drifts off a little bit into a peanut. Peanut note I get rarely in a tea, so very good first brewing. Let's do the second one. Now I'm curious. Et voila. Good, let's do the second one. This will be a very short brewing. Only 20 seconds to see. I didn't bring too much water. So let's make a little bit of stronger brewing. Good. Et voilà, et voilà. Good. So you see the color intensifies. This is a clear sign that it is a Fukamushi tea. Second one. Also here, same effect. So we really have the confirmation it is a Fukamushi tea. There's rarely a tea which is not Fukamushi style, which shows this intensity in terms of color. Ah, okay, super. Well done, Oliver. Okay. This will be concentrated. Okay, I don't know, I'm not sure if it's a fair comparison with the third one. Let's take the first two ones. Yeah. Shows more astringency in the second brewing. Quite intense. There's quite more greener notes coming out, and quite strong astringent tone. So it drifts off a little bit too much in astringency, in my opinion. But there are some very beautiful notes of fresh spinach, so it's kind of loses it more, a little bit fruity and sweeter aspect, and really drifts off, which is normal when you go into second brewing. I think it has to do with the theanine kind of releases quite well in the first brewing, and then the amount of theanine, so a little bit the sweeter particles of the tea, might go down, and this then leaves a little bit more space to the catechins, a little bit more the astringent profiles. These are specially released when you brew it very hot. Here I used 70 degrees Celsius water, which was around 165 Fahrenheit. This tea, second brewing, okay, but drifts a little bit too much off into the stringent tones. Now I'm curious about this one. Should be even more stringent than the other one. No, it doesn't. Interesting. So the first one releases quite a good amount of astringency, or kind of a certain level of astringency in the first brewing, but it kind of evens in the second brewing, so it stays on a similar level. Well, this one really, it catches up to this one here, so they're getting close in the second brewing. Here you have a very beautiful note of sweetness in the first one, mixed with a little bit of greener notes, not too strong in its savory note. Second brewing shows quite a bit of astringency. But very nice. Then, next one. Yeah, it's quite strong now in its more savory notes, so the savoriness comes out. This is typical when I use less water, so it's not a really fair comparison, but I must say, still here, not a lot of astringency, so it stays beautiful in its kind of territory of this a little bit more grassy tones. Now with the less water, a little bit more of savory notes, so if you kind of use a little bit less water, then definitely the savory notes show themselves more. But definitely the most interesting tea. So I guess the winner here is this one here. So I really like this one, so I'm curious to see what Agnese tells me about this tea. And I must say, this one is actually quite interesting because it shows a little bit of astringency. If you like astringency, then this tea could be something for you. It's not overwhelming. And especially it kind of stays on a similar level. Meanwhile, this one here, if you like sweet teas, which is the first brewing definitely showing, with a slight tingling, drifts off a little bit more into astringency. So it might be that this tea in the first brewing is a tea which you might like very much, but as soon as the astringency shows itself, you might not like it too much. So in my opinion, in terms of kind of consistency, this tea was the weakest. Then this one here, refreshing, a little bit of astringency, quite interesting if you like this taste note. And here, for myself, this was the winner due to the fact that it's quite well balanced. It's beautiful, a little bit of a younger, a little bit of a fresher tea, but still sweet and non-astringent in its taste profiles. So super interesting, my personal favorite. I hope this session could help you a little bit. I try to explain you a little bit how do I interpret personally the teas, how do I judge the taste then, and often it is finally when we are tasting the tea that we really get the flavor profile, which is clear. But here sometimes the tea can really kind of evolve from brewing to brewing and show different sides of it. So always super interesting to discover new teas. For me, even though I tasted many already, I'm not getting tired because each tea shows just a different way of being, also from brewing to brewing, not only the first brewing in comparison to each other, but also when we go through different brewings, which you saw now, hear me doing it. Good, so thanks a lot for watching. I hope you liked this one too. A little bit of a longer session, but I wanted to show you a little bit these 3 new teas. I couldn't wait for the information to get it, so I tried them just like that. And I hope it helps you tasting to your teas and make a little bit the discovery into the land of Japanese green tea. Thanks a lot for watching. See you and bye-bye.